Welcome to the Seven Figure Builder Show. My name is Julie Baranek, founder of Seven Figure Builder, where we help high achieving CEOs free up time with gorgeous systems and analytics to scale their business to seven figures and beyond. And I'm here today with my friend Lani Dickinson. Hi, Lani.
Hey, how are you?
I am fabulous. I'm thrilled to have you on today.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me, where in the world are you?
I am in not so sunny California. We've had more rain than I ever remember in my entire 52 years, but I am coming to you from the center of California.
I love it. Yeah, I've heard you've gotten a little bit of rain recently, which is definitely different.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So for those people that haven't had the pleasure to meet you yet, can you tell us just a little bit about what you do with your business?
I am a former Fortune 175 CEO, and I've built a brick and mortar gym from the ground up and have been coaching really new entrepreneurs for the last couple of years. And now I am focused really on multiple 6- and 7-figure earners, helping them to install the elements of what I would say professional management so that they can get true exit, two versions of exit, whether it's exit for freedom and time, which is what we all say we really want, or later down the road, exit for more multiple, so that all that work pays off and carries you long into retirement. So that's what I'm up to right now.
I love it. And that's what everybody's after, is that more time, more freedom, right? That's why we get into business. So you, to my knowledge, have a very powerful story. And I would love to hear a bit of what brought you to this point in your life. And then I definitely want to dig into more of what you're doing with your business.
Awesome. The short version of the long story is, and I think the thing that tends to intrigue people the most, and I have only been sharing this part of my story literally for 3 years because I had a corporate career where you don't share your story. So it took me by surprise that people were so interested in it. I started out, my mom was a street drug dealer, and that usually is pretty interesting to people. So I had all of the things in my life that go along with that, whatever you might imagine for a little girl growing up with that. And not just a little bit, like there were piles of cocaine on the living room table, and we had a cop living with us to protect how big the business was. Imagine all that creates for a little kid. I then moved out when I was 15. I was like, I could do this bad by myself, and didn't want to be around the chaos that life was all about. And I had my son, my senior year, dropped out, got a GED, went straight into nursing school. I said, I got to make a better life for my son. I certainly don't want to recreate what my life looked like. And I became a nurse and very quickly went into hospital leadership. It didn't take me very long to do that. I'm passionate about patient care and outcomes, but I love actually more the business side of things. And I went and got an MBA. And then did a very steep climb to the top of a Fortune 175 healthcare company. At one point, I had all of California and Arizona reporting to me. Somewhere in there, in my early 30s, maybe late 30s, I was getting feedback that I was a bull in a china shop. I'm sure that came from the way I grew up, right? But people loved my results, but they didn't necessarily love that I didn't have good girl manners. I like to say I wasn't running the good girl playbook. And I had to do something about that because I was incredibly security programmed, as you might imagine. So I went out on a self-development journey and discovered NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and got amazing results with that and became passionate about NLP and the results it can get for you. And I wanted to share that with everyone. So that is the thing where the entrepreneur was born. And I joke, and I say my early exposure to entrepreneuring was probably my mom, and that's probably real in some way. But when I got the results I got, because when I finished the first year of that, I got a promotion every 18 months, and my career was easy after that. I also discovered that it pretty well savaged the relationships I didn't know were at risk in my own home, my marriage and my son. And so I was passionate, on fire, entrepreneur on fire to bring this message to the world. So I got out there and started teaching NLP in hotels, doing NLP, the results of NLP types of resorts. But I was so tired of cold calling. Hey, Julie, do you know a friend who could come to my thing? I did not have a sales background. My MBA was in marketing and strategy, but I didn't have the sales background. And so that was painful for me. So I went on a big journey to learn online sales through automation, automated lead gen and those kinds of things, and automated onboarding, because time is my highest value. So I learned all those things and got pretty good at that. But then I was like, then I built a gym from the ground up. It's like, wow, I can help with people that way. Help. And anybody who was on a weight plateau, they had an NLP session with me. So this went on for a while. And then fast forward 5-6 years, people who had been in my early NLP trainings were coming back and saying, can you help me in my business? Or can you help my kids? One of the two.
Yeah.
And I naturally fell in love with the coaching people in business side of things. And so was just minimally side hustling, and probably would have done that forever, to be honest, probably would have done that till retirement. But COVID hit. And a couple of things happened for me professionally. One, I was exhausted. I was working 18 hours a day, 20-hour days in COVID. There was no downtime. We thought all the staff was going to die. This is 2 years of epinephrine. And corporations struggled to deal with that in a way that the leadership necessarily wanted to live with it. So that was going on. But domestic violence and child abuse rose. Like, it probably was already happening at those levels, but we were just more aware because people were locked up and it was becoming more explosive. And I got this, what I describe as a download, like, I can help these women not have to suffer this. I can help them all build businesses. So the nurse part of me took over in my decision making. It was like, I can reach all these people. And so I did 5-day challenges and launched every 6 to 7 weeks. Because I was like, I turned 50 2 weeks after the quarantine order. And I had already came to this place of, I'm not living much. I'm achieving a lot, but I'm not living much. And so I was going to quit at 50. It was on my calendar. But then COVID happened. I said, I can't run away while this is going on. But it was like this download. You have to do something. These women are locked up. The nurse part came out. So I started doing these live challenges, did that. And after the third one, I had made $280,000. I was like, I could live on this if I had to. I was certainly making way more than that as a CEO, but it was like, I think I'm going to get through this COVID thing. We thought it was going to be 6 or 8 weeks.
Right.
Get through this COVID thing. And I'm going to do this full time. I'm on fire for this. So 2020, I couldn't build it. So I started launching it in 2021 in February, did the 3 launches, made the 280. I was like, that's it. I'm out. I am out. As soon as I stopped to say, what is it I need to do before I leave? And it was all about my son, which was interesting. I thought it was going to be about my security, and it wasn't. It was about his. And so I bought some more rental property. I bought him a new car. He hadn't had one in 13 or 14 years. And as soon as the car arrived in my driveway, we buy everything online now, post-COVID. Right. The car arrived in my driveway. I Googled how to write an executive resignation letter, wrote my letter and drove it to my boss. Did that and was gone 30 days later. Haven't really looked back. So I've been gone about 1.5 years. I do a little bit of healthcare consulting on the side, but for the most part, I am focused on really helping people make the impact they want to make with their business without losing their minds, and also prioritizing time and doing what it is they say they really want to do and having that impact, but having the team, the systems, the operations, the automation, telling the money what to do, knowing what data to monitor, how to be the CEO, put your CEO shoes on, I like to say, and run your business instead of having your business run you. So there's the story.
I absolutely love it. And I don't think I mentioned to you, I actually started my whole journey as a registered nurse also. So I was
awesome.
high risk labor and delivery, and then transitioned over into IT marketing and made that huge leap there. So that's fantastic. Yeah. So when you look at that transformation, that's a huge transformation in life and business and all of it. But thinking specifically the corporate world of trading your time for money and what business looks like there versus the sustainability and the automations in the systems, like what do you see as the biggest we'll say catalyst? What's the biggest change for those people?
I think the biggest change that has to happen when somebody comes out of that and wants to be something else. They say, I want that. I'm this right now. I want that. And I don't know how to get from here to there. So they have to have a big why. That's a big thing. Otherwise, they're not going to remain motivated. So they have to get clear on that. But then the biggest transformation I think that has to take place is people have to see themselves in the new way, believe that it's possible and take the actions. And that's often what's in the way for the newer entrepreneur. Won't get visible. I had somebody say to me, but I don't have any clients and I did one podcast. Yeah, not surprised. Really believing that's who I am. That's where I'm going. This is what life looks like. Having a very clear, compelling future that they're drawn to. So they will be willing to get uncomfortable and do the visibility and establish the authority and all the things. When I created my first live challenge, there's people out there saying, all you need is your cell phone. At the end of the day, I think I have 42 emails written in that sequence. They all have a text every go live day. I don't know, there's hundreds and hundreds of automations in there. It's not just simple stuff. So really believing that's where you're truly going and that you can do it. Yeah, we're all going to learn. We're all going to stumble. We're all going to bump our knees. That's the biggest transformation. Instead of saying, I'm still this, it's, yeah, and I'm also that, and that's where I'm going. I think that's the biggest to me, it doesn't matter what the income level is. Going from multi-6 to 7 figures, then multiple 7 figures, we're always becoming the person we need to be to hold that, to receive that. And to me, that's the biggest work to be done. It's never about, do I have the skill? Do I know what I'm doing? Can I do the thing? It's always, am I really being who I say I want to be?
Yeah. And that role is constantly evolving as you go through business. Like you said, at all those different levels, it looks just a little bit different, but we're constantly evolving as to who we are. So I love that. Yeah, I know you have a huge focus on that exit strategy, right? Like when people are moving into that next level of their business, when should people start thinking about that? Like, I think for most entrepreneurs, that hasn't even fallen into the equation, right? We're just trying to keep moving up that ladder. What does that look like for you?
And you hit it on the head. They don't think about it. And so then when the business is running them and they have no time, they're on the hamster wheel, they're doing all the things. That's not the time they're going to figure out what does exit look like. And for me, exit is 2 things. It could be build the business, do the work, and now go live your life and let the cash flow from that fund your impact and your fun and all the things you want to do and stop working your ass off. That's what we did in corporate. You don't have to do that anymore. Or the multiple when you truly exit, whatever time that is. So it usually takes about 3 to 5 years. So I would say first, you got to begin with the end in mind and think about, I recommend people do all pieces of their business until they understand that and now give it to someone else to do, the expert, right? I don't advocate, don't know how to do anything in your business, but once you understand all of those pieces and what your business needs and what the objections are and what the copy is and what the offer should be and how to deliver that, once you figure that all out, hand that to someone else and think about, when my business gets there, my value ladder is fully built out, what is it I say I really want to do? Like, we can't just be about the work.
Right.
What do you want life to look like? And where can you weave that in along the way? And at what point, like, I'm going to Italy for the whole month of October this year.
That's amazing.
That's me weaving it in along the way. Being clear, like, what is the whole life going to look like? And how will I know I have it? Like, what is the evidence that I have it so we don't just keep going? So I think we should start with the end in mind, have that mapped out, work it in. But when we say, I want to sell, whether that's I want to sell because I've built up the earnings and I can sell it for 3.5 or more times earnings, and that's enough money to put in the bank and I can just live on the 4% and I want to live that way. Or whether it's I want to roll that up, sell it off, and do the next thing, or whether I'm whatever age and I just literally want to retire. we've really, especially if we haven't done all this along the way, where we're learning the thing and then installing the expert, it can take up to 5 years to be intentional about installing other people in all areas, marketing, sales, ops, finance, people, right? So 3 to 5 years, but 3 years, when you're going to sell for more multiple, you need to show 3 years of earnings without the face of the owner in the business. So it's something you have to be thinking about more than 3 years from when you want to be done being the doer in your business. Now, I'm sure you've been around enough entrepreneurs to know they stay the doer in the business far too long.
Yeah.
Far too long.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say, as people are growing their team, and I'm curious your take on it, but to bring in people that complement your weaknesses and to hand off the things that you hate to do and the things that you struggle with, so you can really live in your gift and then grow in your gift. And to your point, then continue to take those pieces and delegate them to other people so that you can grow your business and not be buried in running the business and doing that thing every single day.
Yeah, 100%. The first people you got to get, the stuff you're not good at, the stuff you don't like, the stuff you're procrastinating on, the stuff that every time you do it, there's rework involved.
Right.
That's a sign you need a specialist or the expert to do that. You're going to go faster. Just hire the person.
Right.
Even if it's fractional in the beginning, hire what you need, whether that's in some kind of a done for you consultant relationship, whether that's somebody else's offer. And I just bought a big offer in January, and I bought it specifically for the bonuses. They would interview and create a podcast episode, but they would chop it up and create like months and months of social content done for you. So I bought the whole offer to get the months and months of social content, because social content is something I'm not consistent with. I've always grown with ads. So social content isn't something I particularly love. I procrastinate and I'm not consistent with it. So finding ways to have somebody else do the doing so you can keep staying in your zone of genius, but also with that end in mind of, there are plenty of very internet famous entrepreneurs who couldn't sell their business because their face was the whole business.
Yeah.
They were still coaching. They were still deciding. All those things make your business very hard to sell.
Because then somebody has to then be you, which they can never do. So the rate of success is very poor there.
Yeah. I think the really hard part, you can usually convince people to hire, outsource, automate, eliminate, delegate, whatever, the stuff they don't like, or where they can see a roadblock because they're in. It's when you get to the part where now we have to replace you.
Yes.
That's the really hard part. The ego suffers there. And that goes back to having a really clear and compelling vision for what is it you say you really want.
Yeah. So as people are growing their businesses, when would you encourage them to start bringing in the automations in the system? What is the timing or the trigger in your brain to say,
oh, day one?
I agree with you,
question,
but
first question. You get an idea, and then literally my tech person, I get an idea, I map it out on my sketch pad, I click a picture and say, how long would it take you to build that? Because I'm thinking this is the part that has to be me or someone on my team. The rest, how do we automate? And by the time you map it out and you think of all the things that you can automate, there's very little you actually need a human for. Now, I also don't advocate there being so much automation that it feels like you're dealing with AI all the time,
100%.
right? But yeah, I think right away from the beginning, people need to say, okay, I'm going to spend a couple $100 a month on a tech stack instead of trying to use all the free resources, because you can automate and eliminate so much by just thinking that way from the beginning.
I agree. And that's also what allows you to stay the visionary and not feel like you're held down by your business, is when you can be that idea person and the driving force, and then have that support around you to then build in the systems to continue it, so you can then continue being the visionary.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And where do you see data? Again, maybe an obvious question, but how does data support that?
For me, data is everything. It's everything. It tells you where to spend your energy. That's the most important part. What's working, what's not working. So for me, once you build something, you start right at the beginning and you say, is it working? Yes or no? Data's going to tell you that. And if we're doing a lead funnel, front end marketing, we're talking about the signs and symptoms, that the pain stuff that people are exhibiting so that they know that they need you. The data on it, is it working? Are people clicking? Are they making phone calls? Are they opening the emails? Like, we should be checking every step of the way of that. And when we find something that's not within benchmark, then we solve that before we start moving along. And the proof is in the pudding. The person who shows up on the other end of the Zoom or at the live event, are they the right person? And the answer is yes or no. And if they're not, we got to go right back to that front end. Who are we attracting? Is it all working? So for me, every single thing that we're going to do in the business has a data point attached to it. Now, we can't monitor hundreds and hundreds of them. We have to figure out what are the critical 1 to 2 things in each key area. But early on, we've got to test it and make sure it's working and get it optimized before we move to the next step.
Yeah. And that also takes out the guesswork. So much in marketing, we're constantly testing, right? Like, you put something out there, see if it works. And a lot of times I feel like people just go with their gut. Okay, I got so many signups, but they don't look at all the breadcrumbs that are telling you along the way if this is working or not and how to actually make it better. So I tend to be a data geek. So that is where, for me, you can't argue with it. It just simplifies life so much easier when you have something concrete to look at.
Yeah. And will guide everything you do. Oh, this thank you page are not showing up in the Facebook group. Okay, we got to put a video and turn the whole page, turn the button red to make it move. You know, it's like the next thing isn't happening. We go right back to the prior step. We know what's wrong.
Yeah.
And it's not personal. Who cares if I don't like the word or the color? Are you impacting lives on the other side of that?
100%. So as we speak about exit, you've had an amazing way of growing your legacy, I would say, but also your financial freedom. So what has that looked like for you? How have you been able to accomplish what you've been able to accomplish?
I would say my corporate career as a great salary negotiator. In the entrepreneurial space, I think data use, but being resilient. I have this whole video on hearing no as a part of sales, and it's like, most people are giving up after the first or second interaction, but most sales convert after the 8th attempt.
Yep.
So I would always tell people, like, in a digital world, it used to be 6 or 8, depending upon which research you read, used to be 6 to 8 touches in a physical product world before someone would say yes. But out there in the digital world, they say somewhere between 16 and 26 touches. So you have to be really good at hearing no, looking at your data, creating more relevant content, really understanding them so that you can get in those 26 touches. Literally, you might be making hash marks on this. Okay, we're at 26, we've made nowhere. Okay, we'll put them in long-term nurture. Yeah. People are giving up after the first or second time. So I think certainly resilience is how I've been able to achieve. I am always focused on, what is it I say I want to do? What am I willing to do to get there? What am I not willing to do to get there? So clarity about all of that. And the big piece is the stuff I teach. Who's the team? What systems do we need in place? What investments do we need to make? What data should we be tracking? So I take a lot of the emotion out of the journey, because the journey has ups, it has downs, it has ups, it has downs. If follow the cookbook, follow the recipe, do the parts that resonate, be in alignment, be a good person, all those things, now you're just looking at the data, you're responding. And I'm always very clear on, doing this gets me that. And when I get to that, doing that gets me the next thing, right? So for me, I've always been incredibly security programmed based upon the way I grew up. So for me, all of the things around financial freedom is like the home in a safe place, and then financial freedom. And living without debt creates freedom. So pay the debt off, right? Pay the house off. Make investments, make your money make money for you, and do that by investing, not doing more, investing in things. So for me, I'm very clear. I don't want any debt. Like I'm going to start a podcast. And I said to the guy that I was interviewing to do that, he told me, this is what it costs to start. And here's the monthly fee. And I said, can you just send me the payment link for the whole year? So, wow. I said, I don't want any payments.
Yeah.
I hate the idea of payments. So I think a lot of my achievement has been willing to put in the hard work. You know, when I start a new program, I show up, like after this podcast, I'm taking somebody to lunch. I show up, I ask the questions, I talk to the avatar myself. I go in the Facebook groups, I do all the things to collect the information. And then I go to the live events and talk to the people in the hallways. And then I interview people, even if I have to pay for the interviews, interview people and say, what will you pay for? Got to ask that question, right? So I do all that work myself. I don't outsource that. And then I do the work for free and get somebody results and test it out. So I do all that myself before I go build a big thing around it so that I know what the offer, the objections, the pieces, what else needs to be in there. And not everybody's willing to do all that legwork up front. And I've done a lot of legwork in my life to get to the success that I want. So I have no problem going to Italy in October, knowing I've done all of that legwork and people are getting results.
I love it. And I think you hit on such a huge point there that so often market research is like a frowned upon thing. Like we can't stand doing it if we do it up front. But the reality is it's constant, and it has to be constant to be talking with your ideal avatar, find out what they want to pay for, what they'll throw money at you for. And then that's what you build rather than just throwing out an offer and hope that you attract the right people.
Yeah.
And with that, you've got all those touch points where, you know, like you mentioned, there's so many touch points with people, and we so often take it personally when people say no, when in reality, like you said, it's just checking off. And I think of it the same way. It's okay. That was touch point number 5, 6,
We're
7,
not there
8.
yet.
Right. Like we're heading to a goal. We're halfway to the goal. It's not personal. It's we're headed there, and we know we're on the right track. So eventually we'll get the results we want.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's so powerful. So you have, I could talk to you all day. You have throughout the course of your career accomplished so much, right? Like what does success look like to you? And obviously I'm sure it ties in with being able to go to Italy for a month, but what does that really mean to you?
For me, it is truly being able to do what you want, when you want, say yes to what you want and no to what you don't want. To me, that's success.
Yeah, which is personal empowerment and that flexibility, and be able to define your path and your journey.
And not have to make bad decisions because you need the money or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've obviously worked with many leaders and are obviously one yourself, but what would you say defines a good leader? What makes a good leader?
This is really interesting. So on my birthday 2 days ago, I got countless texts. There was 75 texts at one point in the day. And there are so many people from my corporate career there. And I said to a couple of them, wow, I can't. The president of one of the fastest growing Fortune 500 companies sent me a happy birthday text.
Oh.
And I talked to him the next day and I was like, wow, you have no idea how much that means to me. I know how I've done those jobs. I know how busy you are. You must have seen it on LinkedIn and took the time to text me, and now we're talking. And he said, I will never forget you. You impacted my life and my career, and it's your birthday. I want to celebrate you. Wow. And another guy texted me, and he remembers every year. And I said, it's so amazing that you remember every year that this is my birthday. He said, how could I forget? I wouldn't be where I am without you. And so there were 5 or 6 texts like that, and many more, but several that were really powerful like that for me. And I thought, this is partly because I'm on the back half of life. You start thinking about legacy, but wow. So I started thinking about each of those people and what was my interaction with them that they would be thinking that. And So I think the thing that makes people a leader that others don't forget and say, hey, you've impacted my life is a couple of things. One, I've never been worried about getting credit for anything. 99% of the time, I'm in the background, not in the foreground. And I want my people to look good. And if I'm worried about me getting credit or me being the center of attention, that takes away from them. And I am somebody who's hiring people to do the work. They should get the credit for being how brilliant they are. So I think that's a big piece of it. I also am, the word micro or micromanager or whatever gets overused, but I'm probably so far the other direction. Hey, that's where we're going. I'm hiring you because you're really good at the thing we need to get there. Tell me what your obstacles are and tell me what resources you need and just update me along the way. Are we heading there? And my rule when I was in the corporate world is I don't need to know every time you leave at 2:15. I just need the result. And when the place is on fire, you got to be here in the building. And there is something about letting people be awesome and not trying to manage them. I feel like I'm like the manager who doesn't manage. Now, that's not abdicating leadership. It's a very different thing. It's like, this is where we're going. The results are not optional, and we are going to do it. I'm firm on the accountability to the result and the outcome. But I don't micromanage either. And I think people really love being able to be the professional and the expert at what they do and to own their work and then get credit for the amazing results. So I think those are some key things. I'm just in the process of really pondering that, really based on this most recent birthday. It's been really cool. People who just out of the blue, I was like, wow, why would you think of me today? LinkedIn or Facebook prompted them, but they took the time to write a personal text. Another thing is the accountability piece. It doesn't have to be painful accountability. I think most people think of that word and they think, oh, it's like the performance improvement plan. But a person that I terminated once stopped me when she saw me out in the world, and she thanked me and she said, thank you so much for terminating. This was a nurse.
Wow.
She said, that was the final feedback I needed to say my life was going to fall apart if I didn't get my act together.
Wow.
And by then she had her master's degree and had moved into a director level position. And she said, my life was on a path for destruction. And if you hadn't fired me, I wouldn't be where I am today. And my kids would not be where they are today. So that doesn't mean go fire everybody, but holding people accountable to who they say they want to be and what the goals are is incredibly powerful.
Absolutely. And what I hear with the leadership is trust, that you greatly trust your people and that they trust you in the clear leadership and the clarity. And that's all the great leaders I've worked for. You trust that direction and you're able to follow them. And when they trust you, then you're, at least for me, I've always been willing to work 1,000 times harder.
Oh, for sure. That's how I feel about the people I've been willing to lay it all on the line for. Is there is no obstacle I won't move for their success when they trust that. Yeah, my best friend says I'm painfully consistent. And that people want that if they're going to work with you.
It gives them the boundaries to know, okay, I can work within here. But I was working for a great leader at one point in my corporate career come to me and say, what do you need to be successful? And I said, I need flexibility. And I saw his face, that look on his face.
The F word.
I know. I said, I need flexibility to use my creativity to solve problems. And he said, oh, okay, I can do that. And I'm like, that's all I need. Trust me, and I will get you to where you need to go.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So what can people expect from you next?
I'm definitely blazing a trail for helping people really see that this putting professional management is actually really great for the company, for themselves, for their exit, for their life. So really doing that in a big way. That's my next big thing. I'm on fire for this. When I was in the corporate world, I took for granted the corporate world has all this, too much of this structure, right? I took for granted that was a large part. You tend to focus on the stuff that drives you crazy. And so I was frustrated with the bureaucracy part, but I didn't realize out here in the internet streets, in the entrepreneurial world, there's almost no structure.
Right.
And so I'm passionate about helping get just enough structure so that they can have hockey stick success. I'm passionate about that. I also, we didn't talk about this here, but I'm passionate about mental health. And so I got to figure out a way to do something powerful in the mental health arena. I haven't quite figured that out yet, but that's on the horizon.
I love that. And that's so needed right now across the board. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
If you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you tell them?
I would say, love yourself. You're already enough, and go do big things.
Amazing. And how can listeners support you on your work? Where can they find you online?
Certainly on all the social channels, just my name, Lani LA. The good news about having Lani Dickinson as your name is those handles aren't taken anywhere.
Right.
So it's just my name on all of the channels. I'm there. And they can just go to meetlani.com and they'll get an email back, put their stuff in. They'll get an email back with social links and whatever my current lead magnet is and all those kinds of things.
Awesome. And we'll have all the links below.
Awesome.
Thank you, Lani. I really appreciate you being on today. This was amazing.
Thank you so much, Julie. Great to meet you. And I feel like we were just hanging out having coffee, even though I'm in California. And where are you?
I'm in Maryland. So we're literally across the
Right
country
around
from
the
each
corner.
other. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Have a great day and thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And if you found value in this episode, please definitely share it. Check out Lani's links and you can find me at sevenfigurebuilder.com. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.